Hey everyone, Kevin Baxter at Baxter's Garage and Pro Twin Performance back again with a short little tech video. So it's the weekend. I do take a day off, believe it or not. If you remember a few days ago, I did a video for the motorcycle guys on how to read a spark plug. The plugs we were reading were actually out of a Harley Davidson, but for you guys that are following along on the GMC 302 stove bolt inline 6 rebuild, and for those that were interested in the build on my little shop truck here, I wanted to actually show you in real life and do a bit of a follow-up video on that spark plug reading video. So if you're just following the truck videos, head over to the Harley Tech Tip side and be sure to watch the video on how to read spark plugs like a pro. At the end of this one, I'm going to put a link either here or here somewhere to that video so you can have a look. Let's review the spark plugs that we pulled out of the 270 inline 6 that's currently in the shop truck. Before I pull the plugs, let's go through a couple of things that I would expect to see. Okay, first off, this engine it's a 70-year-old technology, okay, but all of the principles are still going to apply. That's the reason that I want to show you guys in a real-world environment that everything we reviewed on how to read a spark plug for your modern Harley is going to apply to a 70-year-old technology engine. So the distributor that's in this is your typical points and condenser. Everything is still a 6-volt system. So we're 6-volt points condenser. We have a typical distributor with a vacuum advance, but the advance is quite interesting. The advance mechanism does not work inside the distributor. It turns the entire distributor itself. So that's a neat little piece there. It also has a 1-barrel factory original Zenith carburetor on it. Now, I've suspected for a while that this thing was running a little bit lean because when I pull the choke out, it smooths out a little bit at mid-throttle and above. So I'm suspecting we'll see a little bit of a white center porcelain on the plug. It currently has a 31 main jet in it. I'm thinking I probably need to go up to about a 35 or 36 main jet, but we'll figure that out when we look at the plugs. Also, on the distributor, I've played around with the timing quite a bit by feel and by ear to get this thing exactly where I think it needs to be, but the plugs will tell us everything that we need to know. One of the other unique things about this engine is, of course it's a 6-cylinder, but it has Siamese ports. So the way the manifold is laid out, you have 3 runners where the center runner is supplying 2 cylinders at once, and then, they split out, for 2 and 2. Now, what I would expect to see, unless we get really lucky and this thing is tuned pretty well, what I would expect to see is that the 2 center plugs, basically number 3 and 4, may look a little bit richer than number 1 and 2 and number 5 and 6 because of how the intake runners lay out. The other thing I would expect to see is that the plug on number 6 would probably, since that is the hottest cylinder by quite a bit, that number 6 may have a little bit more browning to it, possibly even a little bit of a melt to the porcelain. Basically indications, again, like we said in that first video, that the combustion temperature is a little bit hotter in that cylinder. I would expect to see that. And then, of course, the deposits from the lead additive that has to be run in the fuel for this particular engine. These engines are known, they do burn a little bit of oil. So, on this one, every 2,000 miles, give or take, I'll burn a quart of oil in about 2,000 miles. So I'll expect to see a little bit of oil fouling on the plug possibly. The valve stem seals are only on the intake side. So we may see a little bit of oil contamination because of, oil getting sucked past the valve guide. So let's review the spark plugs and have a look. Okay, let's start with the ground strap and the ignition timing. You'll notice on the ground strap here, we have a little bit of a color change here. You'll notice the same color change almost right in the middle of the bend. This one, we're a little closer to the tip. This one, notice, you have that red color and it starts to change color there. You can actually see it, even though this one is oil fouled slightly, where it's changing there. This one is a good indication here we are a little closer to the tip instead of being right in the middle of the bend. Now, I could probably put about 2 to 3 degrees more of advance in there, but overall, we're still very, very close on the ignition advance considering what we're working with. So this one's probably the best indication right here, right in the middle of that bend. So basically, I could probably advance timing a couple of more degrees and pick it up. All right, now notice all the deposits. As I had mentioned before, I'm not surprised to see these deposits because of the lead additive. Notice how it's pretty much consistent from one cylinder to the other. Those tiny deposits are, because it is in each cylinder, is telling me that that's probably not an individual cylinder problem. That is related to the lead-based fuel. And you can also see it here as well. Little deposits consistently pretty much all the way through each ground electrode. All right, when we get to number 6, remember I had mentioned that number 6 was the hottest one. So you can see where the porcelain here is flaking a little bit. I'm not at all surprised to see that because that is the hottest cylinder. Okay, but we know the plug is not getting too hot because let's look at the ground strap. We see that color change here as it approaches the bend, so our timing is good. If the plug was getting tremendously hot, then that color change would be here closer to the thread. So I'm not going to be too concerned about that because I'm aware of the issue and all the other plugs have a very similar look to them. Okay, now let's pay attention to the center porcelain. All right, notice, you may not be able to see in the video, but if we look at the porcelain and follow it all the way down to the base of the threads, we'll see that it's bright white all the way down to the base. Okay, and what I should see is a bit of a carbon ring at about, 90 to what I would say 100% throttle right at the base of the porcelain, and I'm not seeing that. So what that's telling me is that I was correct. I need to step up that main jet from a 32 up to about a 36, I will estimate. All right. Now, we do see on number 5, notice how number 5 is a little bit darker, and we've got a few more deposits on number 5. So what this is telling me here is I probably have a little bit of a valve stem seal issue or even possibly a piston ring issue that's leaving some of these oil deposits that are down on the inside. Again, it's consistency, right? So if we notice that that number 5 plug is the only one that is that dark and has that coloration, then I have that. If I was had an issue with the truck or it was idling rough or anything like that, then of course I would do a leak down and cylinder pressure test across all cylinders. But that's really not that bad considering what we're working with here. So we've, and then also you'll notice there's a bunch of oil deposits on the threads up here. What that's from, quite honestly, is a leaking push rod tube cover and oil blowing up on into the socket where the plug is. So I'm not concerned about that at all. And there you go. Spark plug reading applied. Even comparing completely different engine formats, comparing, relatively young engines, V-twin, fuel injected, electronic ignition, to points condenser, mechanical advanced, distributor, inline 6, carburetor. Even though they're radically different, you can still read the spark plugs exactly the same way, and they will tell you exactly the same things. So again, I'm going to put up a link here to Spark Plug Reading 101. So I invite you truck guys to pop over and take a look at that. And I hope this helps you understand that even in the real world, yes, you can read a spark plug and know exactly what's going on with your engine. So guys, thanks again for watching. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves and each other. Have a good one.